What you are looking at right now isn't just another news analysis. It is a death warrant for your personal wealth. Today, the 14th of January 2026, while most people are still chatting about the first snow of the new year or their meager annual raises, a red alert has pierced the eardrums of the world's elite traders. On deep web terminals and within the hushed corridors of power, places the mainstream media wouldn't dare report on. The alarm is screaming, I want you to do something right now. Open your banking app. Look at that number. You think that your money, number that is nothing but a credit illusion on loan to you from the banking system. Early this morning, the New York Mercantile Exchange COMEX announced a decision that will go down in the history books due to logistical disruptions caused by force majeure. All gold futures contracts expiring this month will have physical delivery suspended indefinitely. Instead, they will be forcibly settled in cash at the spot exchange rate. Don't you understand the subtext? Let me translate that into plain English. The elites who hold the world's physical gold have locked the exit doors 1 second before the massive harvest begins. They are telling retail investors everywhere, sorry, we're rekeeping the gold, you people holding paper contracts. Take these depreciating fiat scraps and get out. This is exactly what I've been warning you about, the 0 hour for paper wealth. But that was just the beginning. 3 hours after the gold delivery halt, a single sentence telegram detonated across the Gulf. A Panama flagged ultra-large crude carrier, All-Sea Seaford, a power failure caused by an unidentified underwater vehicle attack at the narrowest point of the Strait of Hormuz. Right now, that massive vessel is sprawled across the shipping lane, billowing thick smoke. No ships dare approach, and no insurance company is willing to underwrite the remaining voyages. Do you think this is just a distant accident? Do you think this is just a matter of gas prices going up a few cents? Don't be naive. No political event is random. Why did gold delivery stop today? Why did the world's most sensitive choke point, carrying 20% of global oil flow, get blocked today? If you connect these two dots, you find a chilling truth. This is a meticulously planned liquidity strangulation. It is a premeditated financial blitzkrieg, targeting the global middle class and retail investors. While you were scrolling through short videos, worrying about minor life stresses, the elites sitting deep in Wall Street, the City of London, and underground command centers in DC have already hit the confirm button on the greatest wealth transfer in history. Think back. Just 2 days ago, on the 12th of January, gold hit a historic high of $4,540, and silver broke $81. At the time, every mainstream media outlet was screaming about a commodity bull market, luring you to swap your last savings for digital gold ETFs, and so-called safe haven assets. And the result today, just as you thought you had finally outrun inflation, they slammed the gates shut. Using the absurd excuse of logistical disruption, they have stripped you of your right to hold physical assets. It's like you fought for a ticket on a lifeboat just before a fire broke out, only to have the captain announce as the flames lick your heels, because the deck is leaking, this ticket is only worth a few tissues to wipe your sweat. The ship is leaving now with the gold and the powerful. That intense insecurity you feel, that sense of being stripped of everything, that's not an illusion. That is your instinct telling you that a robbery has begun. This heist doesn't use guns or knives, it uses complex contract clauses, precision accidents, tracked by satellite, and the very trust you have left in the financial system. Why today? Because the first quarter of 2026 is the peak for global debt refinancing. If you were the creditor and you realized the money you printed was becoming worthless paper while the debtors could pay you back anyway, what would you do? The top-tier harvesters don't expect the debtors to pay. They want the collateral, they want your house, your factory, and the resources you depend on for survival. To take those, they first have to manufacture the illusion of extreme cash scarcity, a nightmare where all liquidity vanishes in an instant. The halt of gold delivery means the collapse of the physical credit system. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz means the final floodgate of global inflation has been ripped open. Tonight, when you walk into a gas station, when you find the price of essentials in the supermarket has doubled again, when you see your stocks and funds hit the limit down because of a liquidity crisis, remember today, the 14th of January 2026, this isn't just a news date, it's a funeral for an era. The elites are using this extreme, almost thuggish method to complete the largest wealth formatting in human history. They aren't trying to hide it anymore. They didn't even bother to find a better excuse. Because they know that in the face of extreme fear and chaos, the common people will act like a panicked herd, willingly handing over their real chips just for a tiny bit of cash liquidity. You think you're rewatching the news. In reality, you're rewatching a live broadcast of your own home being ransacked. Next, I am going to dismantle this deadly trap for you. I'm going to show you how those laughing behind the screens are using your fear to harvest every bit of surplus value you've accumulated over 30 years of work. Don't blink, because the truth is darker than the most insane thriller. As I record this video, the screens of global exchanges are showing an eerie, suffocating deep red. This isn't a normal correction. This is dimensionality reduction, strike on the financial world. You might think that gold price freezes in New York and oil tankers stalled in the Persian Gulf are far away from you. But I am telling you, from the first second that signal went out, every cent in your bank account entered a pre-set meat grinder designed by the elites. Let's look at the liquidity trap they've built. The moment COMEX announced the halt of physical gold delivery, something absurd happened. The price of physical gold bars in London and Zurich surged by 30% in seconds. But in your trading app, the gold price was plummeting. Why? Because the big institutions were exploiting the cash settlement loophole, frantically dumping paper gold contracts that had just become worthless paper because they couldn't be delivered. This is a cold mathematical game. The institutions received the insider information minutes before the accident. They cleared their long positions and flipped to short, and you were still believing in technical analysis, thinking the gold price would have a healthy pullback after breaking $4,500. Your stop-loss orders became the fuel for the harvesters. This is the first brutal truth in the face of high-frequency trading, HFT, and quantum algorithms. Retail investors aren't playing. They are streaking. AI algorithms running in Manhattan basements can identify keywords from the Hormuz incident in 0.001 seconds, instantly locking onto the margin levels of retail investors worldwide. When oil prices jumped $15 in 10 minutes, global automated systems triggered simultaneously, not to buy but to force liquidate. Because the oil spike caused inflation expectations to spiral out of control, Treasury yields shot up instantly. This means the anchor for all global asset pricing snapped. To cover margin calls on oil shorts, institutions had to sell anything with liquidity. Thus, you saw the S&P 500 nosedive 15 minutes after the open, like a kite with its string cut. You might say, I don't. Trade stocks or futures. I am safe. Wrong. The gears of this meat grinder reach you through your pension, your insurance policies, and even the interest on your bank deposits. Think about it. Who is the largest buyer of global government bonds? Your pension fund managers. When this chain of accidents hit today, the bond market suffered its largest sell off in history. No one knows what a green piece of paper with Benjamin Franklin's face on it can buy when physical gold is locked and energy arteries are severed. Just moments ago, several of the world's largest pension funds lost over 3% of their net value. What does 3% mean? It means if you were planning to retire next year, you might have to work 3 more years in the very system that is harvesting you. Your future was quietly mortgaged to Wall Street today in a financial coup disguised as an accident. Even worse is the coming imported inflation. The blockade of the Strait of Hormuz isn't just about oil. It's the master valve of the global supply chain. This afternoon, major global shipping companies announced that all ships passing through the Suez Canal must now reroute around the Cape of Good Hope. That means 15 extra days of travel and double the fuel costs. These costs be eaten by multinational corporations. They will be distributed into every gallon of gas, every carton of milk, and every piece of clothing you order online. This is their brilliance. They don't need to pull money directly from your bank card. That would cause a riot. They only need to manufacture a supply crisis that raises prices by 20% over the next 3 months. That is effectively seizing 20% of the purchasing power you saved over the last decade. It is invisible, first-degree robbery. You must see the logic chain. First, they drive up gold prices, as mentioned in Part 1, to lure retail investors in. Next, they stop physical delivery through an accident, rendering paper contracts worthless simultaneously. They sever the energy artery to trigger hyperinflation and an asset price collapse. In this process, you sell out of fear, you get liquidated due to margin calls, and you dip into your savings to cover rising costs. Meanwhile, the giants sitting in the deep web are taking your cheap, blood-stained chips and rebuying real hard assets at the bottom. Gold, oil, minerals, core real estate. While you are staring at red numbers on your phone with a pounding heart, they have completed the wealth swap. They gave you currency that is about to become trash due to inflation. And they took the real, non-renewable resources from your hands. This is why I call today the retail meat grinder. You think this is just irrational market volatility? No, this is precision hunting by apex predators. Every limit down, every forced liquidation is a delicate dessert at their banquet. They exploited the information gap, the technological chasm, and most importantly, your blind trust in the rules. You believed COMEX would honor contracts. You believed international shipping was free. You believed central banks would maintain price stability. But the reality is, they write the rules, and when they feel the need to reset the game, the rules are meant to be torn up. Do you understand now why every financial news outlet today is talking about a stalled ship, yet almost no one is digging into the missing gold deliveries? They don't want you to see the closed loop. They want you to think it is just bad luck, an accidental geopolitical event. But in a game of this level, luck doesn't exist. If you don't take action now, if you are still hallucinating about a market rebound, you will truly become the last bit of meat pulverized by that grinder. Next, I am going to take you past these chaotic market signals into the darkest and most real domain, the deep state chessboard. We are going to see how these so-called accidents and failures were precisely calibrated in secret boardrooms. We are going to see what those who truly control this grinder are ultimately after. Is it just for money? Number, they want something much, much bigger than money. Now, turn off those flashing charts. If you want to understand this play, you need to shift your gaze from the trading floors of Wall Street to the Strait of Hormuz at 26 degrees north, 56 degrees east, and then to the private clubs that have no signs and aren't even on the map. We aren't discussing volatility. We are discussing manipulation. Do you honestly believe a 300,000-ton ultra-large crude carrier would just stall in the most sensitive lane of the strait without any warning? In 2026, with 24/7 satellite surveillance and mature autonomous navigation, the probability of this is lower than you winning the lottery 3 times in a row. This wasn't an accident. This was a precision surgical strike. Who is the surgeon? Look at who is laughing loudest during this chaos, and you will find the person sitting in the VIP box by following the trail of blood. First, we must mention the military, industrial, energy, financial complex, hailed by mainstream media as saviors. But in reality, they are the harvesters of global wealth. Within 1 hour of the tanker stalling, shares of Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and several top energy giants leaped upward against a crashing market. Why? Because the scent of war is their best catalyst. With the strait blocked, tensions in the Middle East hit a boiling point instantly, and national defense budgets worldwide will be rewritten tonight. More importantly, the energy titans controlling American shale oil don't dream of peace. They dream of scarcity under high prices. Through this man-made accident, they successfully reduced the global oil supply by 20%. This means the value of the 80% they still hold in inventory has doubled in an instant. But that is just the surface. The true ultimate gamble lies in the survival of the dollar hegemony. Remember the 2026 debt crisis I mentioned. As of this year, U.S. national debt interest payments have exceeded military spending. This is the omen of a collapsing empire. If the world starts to doubt the credit of the dollar, if people stop buying treasuries, the system collapses like a row of dominoes. How do you stop that collapse? Not by solving the debt, but by manufacturing extreme external chaos, so that global flight capital, having no other choice, pours back into the U.S. Treasury market. Look at today. When the Strait of Hormuz is blocked and gold delivery stops, investors worldwide realize in terror that while the dollar is devaluing, every other currency and asset is more dangerous. The euro will collapse due to the energy crisis. Asian currencies will fluctuate due to supply chain breaks. Thus, a meticulously designed liquidity thirst is born. By manufacturing a disaster, they herd global capital like sheep back into the dollar trap. It's the philosophy of sacrifice your neighbor to save yourself. And regarding today, gold delivery halt, there is an even more bone-chilling secret. I've mentioned the physical gold rehypothecation, scam many times. Simply put, those Wall Street banks sold dozens or even hundreds of paper gold contracts for every single bar of physical gold they actually held. They gambled that you would never ask to take delivery. But with the acceleration of global de-dollarization in early 2026, several major central banks began demanding the return of their physical gold from New York and London. The scam was exposed. There wasn't enough gold in the vaults, so they needed an excuse. They needed force majeure to hide the fact that the vaults were empty. Today, Hormuz crisis is their perfect shield. They can righteously announce, because the world is in a state of near war and the logistics system has collapsed, we cannot fulfill delivery obligations. It is a perfect default transfer. They used a crisis that could trigger a regional war to cover the truth that the underlying logic of the financial system has completely rotted away. It reminds me of the Nixon shock in 1971. Back then, the U.S. unilaterally tore up the Bretton Woods system because gold reserves were insufficient, decoupling the dollar from gold. They harvested the world then. Today, in 2026, they are doing it again, only this time the methods are more hidden, more violent, and more reckless. They don't care about the sailors on that tanker, they don't care about the civilians on either side of the strait, and they certainly don't care, if you can, T pay your mortgage because gas prices doubled. In the chess game of these elites, we ordinary people are just necessary attrition, the digital fuel, required to keep their system running. You might ask, can no one stop them? Good question, but that is the most desperate part. When the institutions meant to regulate the market are themselves players in the game, when the so-called international rules are designed to protect the players, who can you count on? Look at the UN today. Look at the IEA. Aside from issuing a few meaningless statements, what have they done? They are waiting for orders. They are waiting for the puppet masters to finish the last big swap deal, waiting for the nuclear submarines lurking in the deep to get into position, waiting for global anxiety to hit the critical threshold. This is the script effect. Every key node, from the gold price surge to today, S shutdown to the coming larger security conflict, is pre-calibrated. This is a comprehensive hunt of the productive class by the elite class, transcending national borders. They are using the dying embers of dollar power and their physical control over global choke points to perform an unprecedented asset reset. They don't. T just want money. They want to re-establish a new hierarchy based on energy quotas and digital credit. In this system, if you don't T hold physical assets, and if you don't T see through this fog, you are destined to be eaten in this game. Next, I will take you into the darkest part of all. We are going to tear open the forbidden zones that mainstream media would T dare touch. We will look at which elite families quietly moved their assets in the 48 hours before the accident. We will see how many seconds remain before the systemic breakdown. The V covered up finally hits us all. Get ready, the truth in part 4 might keep you awake for the rest of your life. If the first 3 parts were dismantling the path of this storm, the following content will take you into the black box, at the core of this system, the part that is truly terrifying. Many people ask me, why do these elites play with fire? Aren't they afraid the system will collapse completely and bury them too? To ask this is to underestimate the coldness of these people and to overestimate their loyalty to the existing order. To them, the current financial system is not a home to be nurtured. It is a sinking Titanic that is beyond repair. Every move they make now is not to fix the ship, but to dismantle the lifeboats and assemble them into their own private aircraft carriers before the final plunge. Today, the 14th of January 2026, the most chilling truth is not the burning ship or the locked vaults. It is a detail ignored by every mainstream media outlet and almost every financial expert. The Federal Reserve electronic payment system experienced a 180-second momentary offline status due to a routine network upgrade at 10:14 a.m., exactly 3 minutes after the ship incident in the Strait. 180 seconds, 3 minutes. To the average person, this might just be a loading circle on their phone. But to apex predators, these 3 minutes were the most expensive dark box operation time in history. According to anonymous transaction records IV obtained through special channels, in those 3 minutes, the 3 largest commercial banks in the U.S. quietly closed trillions of dollars in interest rate swap positions through the Fed's emergency clearing window. What does that mean? It means while the world was staring at the burning tanker, those who knew the system was about to crash due to the oil spike used the cover of a system glitch to complete a perfect debt escape without paying a dime in margin. Who did they dump the rotting debt on? On the automated trading systems of your pension funds and small business trust funds that were still struggling to stay afloat. This is their humanity. In their eyes, there is no sharing the burden, only getting out first. An even deeper rot is happening in the underlying logic of the treasury market. You must understand a brutal reality. If gold cannot be delivered, it means hard credit is dead. If the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, it means energy credit is dead. So what is the last bit of color supporting the U.S. Treasury and the dollar? It is military credit. But today, that carrier strike group, boasted as invincible, showed a desperate sluggishness when faced with unidentified underwater vehicle attacks. This sent a signal more terrifying than inflation. The violent machine that once maintained global order may no longer be able to back up these green slips of paper. Once military backing wavers, treasuries transform from safe, haven assets into the world's largest pile of financial nuclear waste. I received a classified memo from the inner circles of Wall Street mentioning a contingency plan codenamed Holy Grail. The core of the plan is, if Treasury yields spin out of control, and if no country is willing to buy us debt anymore, the only solution is to deliberately manufacture an unfixable systemic collapse. You heard that right. If creditors come knocking and you have 0 cents to your name, the easiest way isn't T to work and pay it back. It's to set the ledger on fire. Everything happening today is that fire. The gold halt is physical isolation. The Strait blockade is logical isolation. Through these 2 layers of isolation, they created a perfect, unauditable environment of chaos. In this environment, they can righteously push for the mandatory conversion to digital dollars, claiming it S for financial security, while wiping out all old debt relationships and resetting everyone S credit limit. You think you are holding savings in the eyes of the elite. Those are just IOS to you that they can cancel at any time. This is why IV always emphasized that no political event is random. Why did that ship stall exactly 1 week before Treasury liquidity reached a terminal dry point? Why did the rules change just as gold reached a price that made all the shorts feel despair? Because the house is flipping the table. Mainstream media will tell you this is a geopolitical tragedy, a rise in terrorism. They will tell you to hate a fictional enemy and feel pain for the rising prices. But they will never tell you that the ones who planned all of this are the very respectable people who call for peace on television and talk about the future of humanity at Davos. They are observing our reactions in a laboratory. They monitor everyone, S-emotions through big data, the panic index on social media, the scale of supermarket panic, buying even people S-stress tolerance when their accounts shrink. To them, this is just a stress test. If you feel suffocated and powerless right now, that is exactly the effect they wanted. Because only when you are in extreme fear and scarcity will you be willing to hand over your last bits of power and freedom in exchange for the order they deign to provide. I want to ask you a question. If you wake up tomorrow and find all ATMs are empty, all electronic payments are busy, and the gas price outside is an astronomical number you can afford, in that moment, will you still believe the official bulletin telling you everything is under control? The darkest moment isn't T when the crisis erupts. It's S when you realize that the shield meant to protect you is actually the sword piercing your chest. Those decision makers are sitting in nuclear bunkers right now, eating top-tier steak, watching us fight on the surface for a gallon of gas. They don't have greed because they already own everything. They only have coldness, like a mechanic discarding parts of an old machine. Discarding us the heavy debt burden that is no longer useful today. The 14th of January, 2026 is the ultimate display of the human chess match. In this game, morality is a cheap luxury, and truth is a forbidden secret locked behind many doors. But I am tearing off the lock. I am telling you, though the system is rotting, and they are fleeing as long as you retain the ability to see through the lies, you are no longer a sheep for the slaughter. In part 5, I will give you a real survival guide. It's not just about money, it's about how to keep the last spark of your class mobility in a cursed resetting financial system. We will project the next 72 hours, and I will tell you what the rich who are currently buying up physical assets like mad are actually doing. Close your eyes. After dark is when the hunt truly begins. By the time you read this, time has become your most expensive luxury. If you are still waiting for a news broadcast to give you an official explanation, or still hoping the stock market will open next Monday to give you a chance to exit, you have already lost this survival game. According to my projections, the next 72 hours will be the darkest vacuum period in modern financial history. First, the next 24 hours, you will see central banks issue joint statements attempting to cover up the liquidity dry up with massive cash injections. This is just a stall tactic. The real storm lies in the chain reaction of credit defaults, because the tanker in the Strait of Hormuz is still burning, and because gold in New York remains frozen. Global collateralized financing chains have completely snapped. You will see the first batch of mid-sized banks announce system maintenance, a euphemism for a bank holiday. Immediately after, to prevent capital flight, digital withdrawal limits will be frozen. The next 48 hours, energy shortages will transmit from futures markets to the real world. You will find gas stations in your city forming long lines or implementing rationing. Supply chain breaks will cause supermarket shelves to be cleared in hours. This isn't tea because goods are gone, but because before that fire burns the ledger. No one wants to accept electronic credit that is as worthless as scrap paper. The final 72 hours, when panic reaches its peak around the 17th of January, the true master move will appear, the so-called Global Debt Restructuring Agreement. They will, in the name of protecting civilian property, forcibly convert all old assets into a brand, new digital sovereign currency, highly controlled by major institutions. This is the endgame. After this fire, your past savings, the options in your hand, and all your financial plans for the future will be forcibly formatted. So in this harvest season, what are the rich doing? I'll tell you, the true deep elites aren't staring at trading terminals right now. They completed their final evacuation long before this date arrived. They are frantically buying up everything untraceable and non-cancelable. Not the gold certificates in bank vaults, but actual physical gold bars in their hands. High-concentration medical antibiotics, small-scale independent energy modules, and most importantly, self-sufficient land assets. They are unplugging themselves from this fragile digital civilization. In secret shelters far from political centers, they have used your blood and sweat to build class moats, and you, if you are still in the so-called middle class or commoner class, you must immediately stop your herd behavior. In this ultimate gamble, your survival guide consists of only 3 core principles. I suggest you carve them into your brain. The first principle, cut off the digital illusion, embrace physical possession. If you have any form of financial derivative, even a safe haven gold ETF, liquidate it immediately. Before that slip of paper becomes kindling, swap it for something you can see and touch. Remember, in 2026, any asset that requires someone else's server to prove it belongs to you doesn't truly belong to you. You need physicals. If you can buy gold, buy silver. If you can buy silver, stockpile the hard goods your family needs to survive for the next 3 months. In an era of zero credit, a box of high-efficiency, canned food is worth more than 10,000 shares of a crashing tech stock. The second principle, beware the savior trap. When governments and elites start talking about a great reset, a new currency, or an emergency relief plan, clutch your wallet. Those are their final harvesting tools. All relief comes at a price, and that price is usually your right to privacy and your control over your remaining wealth. They will give you consumption vouchers to buy overpriced food at designated stores. But the catch is you must sign an agreement that locks you into a digital serfdom system for life. Refuse any form of credit swap. Hold on to your physical assets. They are your only bargaining chips in the future. The third principle, build your offline social circle. The collapse of a financial system is usually accompanied by the hardening of information silos. When the internet is censored and blocked on a massive scale, your most reliable information will come from your neighbors and real-world trust networks. The elites fear nothing more than decentralized individuals forming mutual aid communities. Get to know people with practical skills, doctors, mechanics, farmers. In a financial tsunami, this primitive collaboration based on trust is the only Noah's Ark that will carry you through the darkest hour. I know, after hearing all this, you might feel despair. You might feel that against these giants with their fingers on nuclear and financial buttons, we are like candles in the wind. But what I want to tell you is that even on the darkest, the 14th of January, light still exists. That light is not in the security they promise you, but in your awakening. They can harvest you only because you have been living as a parasite within the system they designed. You got used to their credit, their rules, and seeing the world through their eyes. But today, as this machine starts to spin wildly, trying to grind you up, it is the perfect time to pull yourself out. It is the end of an era, but it could be the start of a new civilization. Don't look at what they say, look at what they do. Look at the missing gold in New York. Look at the ghost ship burning in the Strait of Hormuz. Look at that cold, disobedient string of numbers in your bank account. The truth is there, bloody and naked. Today, the 14th of January, 2026, is a nightmare for the sleepers, but it can be a coronation for the awake. You can choose to remain the lamb wandering in front of the meat grinder, hoping for mercy, or you can choose to be the lone wolf watching from the wilderness, looking for real hard currency in the ruins, waiting for the moment to reshuffle the deck. Remember every word I said today. When people look back at 2026, they will say that disaster was an accident. Only you, who stayed until the end of this channel, will understand that it was the most expensive coming of age ceremony our generation ever went through. The world, from today on, belongs to those who dare to stare into the darkness and protect their wealth and dignity within it. I am your financial watchman. Don't look at the jumping numbers. Look at the flow of power behind them. Protect your assets, but more importantly, protect your clarity. Stay alert tonight, because the real harvest has just begun. I LLC you at the endgame.